now. All right, we're back. Again, we're sorry for technical difficulties. All right. So the point we were making is that we would never, from the pulpit, use it as an opportunity to tell our people or tell members to become disorderly, law-breaking citizens of society. Okay, that would be utterly an utterly abominable thing for one who was called to be a shepherd to do. Okay. However, we're going to show you biblically that there have been times throughout Bible history when men of God, who though they were in positions of authority within this society or under governments, okay, a time came in which they had to make a choice as to who they would serve. Not that they didn't serve the Most High before that choice came about, okay, but the time came in which it was almost life or death, and they had to make a decision as to who they would serve, okay, either God or Mammon, okay. So let's get into it. Let's go to some examples, right? Let's go to the book of Daniel, the first chapter. All right, you can read it when you have it.
Daniel chapter 3, verse 1. Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold, whose height was 80 cubits, and the breadth thereof 6 cubits.
Right. Now, before we go there, let's go back to the book of Daniel, the first chapter, to show you the position that Daniel had in the kingdom of Nebuchadnezzar. Let's first start off when it speaks about the Hebrew boys that were brought to Babylon to serve captivity.
Let's see. Let's press that for one. Daniel chapter 1, verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, into Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Most High gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, with part of the vessels of the house of the Most High, which he carried into the land of Shinar to the house of his God.
Right. So Jehoiakim being one of the kings of Judah. Okay, this is the king of Judah that served during the time of the siege of Nebuchadnezzar. Okay, so he was taken into captivity, and when Nebuchadnezzar sieged Jerusalem, he went into the temple and he took the precious items or the instruments that we used in order to perform the daily priesthood. Okay, read on.
And he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God. And the king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of the eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel, and of the king's seed, and of the princes, children in whom was no blemish, but well favored, and skillful in all wisdom, and cunning in knowledge, and understanding science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace.
Right. So you see this? Read that again from the top. Because this shows you that when we were brought to Babylon, right? When our forefathers were brought to Babylon, the king of Babylon suggested that out of all the Hebrew children, we're going to take those, or out of all the Hebrews, we're going to take those who are, knowledgeable of things that we're about to read, to show you that this type of knowledge existed amongst our people. Okay, read on.
Children in whom was no blemish.
Children in whom there was no blemish. So these were the children that they were selecting to serve as eunuchs in the within the ministry, if you will, of Nebuchadnezzar. Okay, read on.
But well favored.
Mm-hmm.
And skillful in all wisdom.
And skillful in all wisdom. So we had wise men amongst the nation of Israel. Go ahead.
And cunning in knowledge.
And cunning in knowledge. Go ahead.
And understanding science.
And understanding science. Go ahead.
And such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace.
To stand in the king's palace. Now, let's see who was among these Hebrew children that were being elected to serve in the king's palace. Read on.
Verse 6. You want to jump down?
Mm-hmm.
Now among these were the children of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah.
Right. So out of these were the children of Judah. Daniel. Who else? Mishael. Who else?
Mishael and Azariah.
Azariah
Hananiah.
and Hananiah, who we know as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. You're going to find out that those were quote unquote slave names that were given to the children of Judah under the Babylonian captivity. Daniel was called, what was it? Belteshazzar?
Yeah.
Yep, go ahead.
Unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names. For he gave unto Daniel the name of Belteshazzar, and to Hananiah
Some
of
people are saying,
Shadrach.
one second. Some people are saying it's all clear. Some people are saying it's buffering. Okay, so we're going to move forward. We're going to continue forward. Okay, hopefully when you watch it back, things are clear. Okay, we have to get through this this lesson. So we're going to finish this off within the next maybe 20, 30 minutes, and we're going to close out. Okay. All right.
And that's to Daniel. Daniel the name Belshazzar,
Mm-hmm.
and to Hananiah of Shadrach, and to Mishael of Meshach, and Azariah of Abednego.
Right. So these are Judites. These are children from the lineage and the tribe of Judah. Okay, Israelites who had knowledge of God's laws, who had knowledge of Moses, who had knowledge of the prophets, so on and so forth, that are being raised up to be eunuchs to serve in Nebuchadnezzar's palace. Now, notice that Daniel and these boys, they didn't come and say, "You stinking heathen Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar, we don't want to serve in your palace. We don't want this. We don't want that. You're the devil. The Most High is going to judge you and deal with you," so on and so forth. They didn't come in that fashion. Okay? They came, they saw what it was, realized what it was. They were raised up, okay, to serve in the Babylonian palace. And they did, and they operated as they were told. Okay. However, scenarios came about in which these children had to make decisions based on their being descendants of Judah, descendants of Israel, having knowledge of Moses, having knowledge of the law, having knowledge of the prophets. Okay. Based on that, they had to make decisions. Read on.
But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore he requested for the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself.
Right. So when it came now to feed and nourish the eunuchs, right, the chief of the eunuchs came and he brought the king's meat. Okay. And he brought the king's wine. Right. And what did Daniel say? He said, "I can't what?"
And Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with a portion of the king's meat.
Right. So he stated that I cannot defile myself. This is Daniel speaking, with the portion of the king's meat. So he was willing to operate in his position and what was given him as one who would serve in the palace of the king. He took it as it came. Okay. The same way Joseph received the position of being second in command over Egypt. The same way Esther received the position of being the queen of Ahasuerus, king of Persia. These are all Gentile nations that Israelites are being raised up into prominent positions. Okay? Dealing with they, of course, amongst these society, they have their laws, they have their customs. And here it is, we're in these societies, living in these societies. Okay? However, a time comes in which decisions must be made in those societies with those positions. And we're seeing one example with Daniel, right? Read on.
Now the Most High had brought Daniel into favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs.
Right. So Daniel was well favored. How did he become well favored? Did he become well favored by saying, "You stinking nasty heathen eunuch, get out of my face. I'm not dealing with you. The Most High going to kill you. He's going to rain fire on Babylon. Okay, you don't know the laws of God. You ain't got no wisdom. You're stupid. You're dumb." Okay. Or did he operate and did he just, accept his portion, right? Operated and functioned and understood that this is the measure that was meant to him by the Most High. Okay, this was his measure that was meted. Their forefathers sinned. Now they're in captivity. Now they're in these positions. Okay.
10. And the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who hath appointed your meat and your drink. Why? For why should he see your faces worse liking than the children which are of your sort? Then shall ye make me endanger my head to the king.
Right. So the eunuch said, well, listen, Daniel, if you refuse this meat from the king, you're going to put my life in danger. Okay. And now the eunuch, he's reasoning with him because, as it says, he had a special place in his heart for Daniel. He loved Daniel. Okay. And was willing to try to reason with Daniel to a degree. But what did Daniel say?
Then said Daniel to Melzar, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them give us pulse to eat and water to drink.
Right. So you notice that Daniel used wisdom. Okay. He didn't tell the guy, listen, if you don't get out my face with that, we ain't eating the king's meat. Okay. Get out my face before I kill you, you devil. Okay. He didn't say these things to the eunuch. He used wisdom. He said, well, listen, prove your servant. Okay. Try me. Listen, give us pulse, give us water. You understand? Give us vegetation to eat. Right. Go ahead.
Then let our countenance be looked upon before thee, and the countenance of the children that eat of the portion of the king's meat. And as thou seest, deal with thy servants.
So he said, give us 10 days. We'll eat this diet. Okay. And come back and see how healthy and how well favored we are. Okay. Physically, when you come back in 10 days. Go ahead.
So he consented to them in this matter and proved them 10 days.
Right. So he used wisdom. He offered an alternative. Now, see, what can we learn from this? Many of us, we get in these situations, right? We're working at a certain place or, something is required of us and we go to the extreme, right? We're working in a hospital. The doctor says the people that's over you tell you, you got to do this, that, and the third. And we go to 10. You child of Satan, you devil worshiper, you Satanist, you blood drinker, you this, you that. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that, so on and so forth. Instead of saying, you know what? Let me use wisdom. Okay. And let me offer an alternative. Doctor, I can't do that, but let me do this. Okay. And sometimes they'll, especially like in this situation, that doctor or that person that's over you, your superior, and this can be anywhere. That person may have a special place in their heart for you because you're a good worker, you're on time, okay? You develop a relationship with this person. So they're willing to risk themselves to make sure that you are to somewhat, accommodated as much as they can. So sometimes you can say, well, I can't do this, doc, or I can't do this, whatever job you work at, but I can do this, okay? I can go about this far. Let's do it this way. Boom, this way you still are, in safety when it comes to your job, okay? Because by me doing things this way, it's not going to hamper my work, okay? It's not going to hold me back. It's going to help me actually be a better worker because I'm appreciative of you, being respectful of what I believe in or whatever the case may be. So let's do it this way. Here's the alternative, and we'll do it this way, okay? They give you a shot and they realize you become better, a better worker or employee, okay, than you were before because they showed you some level of, trust, slack, so on and so forth. But these are the things we have to consider, okay? We have to use wisdom, okay? Especially in this time period, we have to use wisdom. And in this time, we're getting to the point where it's going to have to be just straight out. Again, using wisdom, not cursing anyone, so on and so forth, but understanding that fine line we were talking about earlier, that line is getting thinner and thinner to the point it will disappear. So you will have to make an utter decision as to, listen, either you do this or there's no other option. There's no alternative. And that's the time we're moving in this time period. Okay, or we're getting close to where there are no alternatives, right? So we're going to give you those examples as well. Okay, let's stay in the book of Daniel, and let's get those three children in the furnace.
So we're going to Daniel chapter 3. All right.
All right, you can read that.
Yes, sir. Daniel chapter 3, verse 1. Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold, whose height was 60 cubits, and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set it up in the plain of Dura, in the province of Babylon. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king sent to gather together the princes, the governors, and the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces.
Right. So these are high-level government officials under Nebuchadnezzar. All right. So we gathered all of them together, right? For what purpose?
To come to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up.
Right. So they were all called forth, all these high government officials. Now, in today's terms or in today's society, they make you believe that there is no religion or religious connection to the positions of this earth. They make you think that it's all politics and so on and so forth. Or if they do put forth religion, they try to put forth some type of Christian veneer. Okay. But the reality is that the same way the ancient Babylonian high generals and people of the cabinet of the king, or what we would call today the president, these people serve foreign and strange gods. And not only do they serve these gods, they deal with rituals and sacrifices and all things that are related to these gods. Okay. Same things it was back then. Okay. But nonetheless, all of them are being called forth for this purpose. Okay. To dedicate an idol that was made in honor of the king. Read on.
Verse 3. Then the princes, the governors and captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces were gathered together unto the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Mm-hmm. And they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Mm-hmm. Then an herald cried aloud, to you it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king hath set up. And whoso falleth not down and worship shall the same hour be cast in the midst of a burning fiery furnace.
Right. So they had a herald who sat and he read a message and he yelled the message forth. All you men, women, and so on and so forth. You know, when you hear the music, bow down to the image. Right. So read on.
Therefore, at that time, when all the people heard the sound of the cornet, the flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and all kinds of music, all the people and the nations and the languages fell down and worshiped the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Mm-hmm. Wherefore, at that time, certain Chaldeans came near and accused the Jews. They spake and said to the king Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. Thou, O king, hast made a decree that every man that shall hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, shall fall down and worship the golden image. Mm-hmm. And whoso falleth not down and worshipeth, that he should be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace.
Right. And someone said, literally like the national anthem ritual. Mm-hmm. All right. The music goes and everyone must put their hand over their heart and they must give their praise and their glory and, all of that, all of their emotions and love towards a particular item, which during the ceremony is the flag. Right. Mm-hmm. But go ahead.
Verse 12. There are certain Jews whom thou hast set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar in his rage and fury commanded.
Now, what do we see with this? We see an example of amongst these high officials of government, right? You always have those individuals that are there for their special interests, right? What they call special interest groups, or I guess you would call them today, what they call them, NGOs or, non-government officials or whatever the case may be. So you always have those people who have their special interest amongst the cabinet of the one in authority. And in this case, those with the special interest were those who were looking at the Jews like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and saying that, listen, all of the high officials of your kingdom, all the men and women of your kingdom bow down to your command. When you say worship the image, when you play the music and everyone bows, these men do not regard you. And the reason why they don't regard you is because they are Jews, and the Jews have laws against worshiping idols. Right?
Snitching.
Exactly.
Like the corona.
Exactly. People snitching. And you can imagine this today. Listen, everyone is wearing a mask when they go outside. Everyone is wearing a mask when they go to the store. But these people don't have a mask. What do you say, old Nebuchadnezzar? What do you say, old Donald Trump? Okay? Or whatever official they answer to. Okay? This is what goes on. And we're gonna be seeing this a lot, especially with them deputizing, as we've been mentioning, these different, these store clerks. Okay? A guy working at Walmart who just sits there and stands by the door and has absolutely no authority over anything in the planet Earth outside of standing at the door at Walmart is now telling you how to conduct yourself, how you got to put your mask on. And if you take your mask off just to take a breath, he's coming with a flashlight. He's coming with something to try to molest you, okay? Just because you took your mask down just to have a little breather, okay? This is the society that we're moving into. And we're showing you, brothers and sisters, that this is not the first time that we have been under these circumstances. Okay, where now the decisions we're making, being believers, are automatically starting to make us, we stand out a little bit more. Okay, initially, you're a Hebrew Israelite, nobody cares about that stuff. You guys are a cult, that thing will fade out. Okay, but we remember towards the end of last year, we noticed Israelites started receiving more national attention. Okay, but then even in this time now, we're starting to see more, so of a divide amongst society, okay, between races, okay, between different what do you call it, intellectual ideologies and beliefs and things of that nature. You're starting to see lines being drawn, okay. On one end, you got some people who believe everything the news is saying about the coronavirus. On the other side, you have those who are questioning what the government is saying. Okay, may believe some of it, don't believe all of it, but they're kind of in the middle. And then on the other side, you have those who are saying this is a full-out agenda. Okay, we're questioning everything that's coming out of these people's mouths. Okay, so it's drawing lines, and because of that, people are going. Everyone is seeking to their own kind. Every bird is seeking, or every feather is going unto its feather. Okay, or every bird is going to its flock. Okay, so this is what's taking place. All right, but getting back to the point is that this is not the first time that we've seen these types of scenarios. Okay, where people are now using their authority to now say, look at these people who claim to be believers of God and keep the laws of God, who are by their belief in God are disregarding a certain aspect of government. Now think about this real quick, right? It's not like these children, these Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were robbing people. It's not like they were committing murder. It's not like they were rapists or child molesters or doing something that's outright against the society. Okay? They simply refused to not worship an idol, okay, which first and foremost was against their religion, but wasn't really necessarily, if I don't worship this idol, it's not going to make me a less, better citizen of this society. Okay? So I'm doing the parallel is in this time, you have people who are law-abiding citizens, don't rob, don't steal, don't murder, okay, don't rape, don't child molest, or do anything against the laws of this society. But then someone comes and says, well, listen, here's the vaccine. If you want to work, you're going to need this vaccine. If you want your children to go to school, you're going to need this vaccine. As if the vaccine is going to make us better citizens of society. Okay? So that's the parallel, right? Let's get to the point. Read on.
Then Nebuchadnezzar, in his rage and fury, commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spake and said unto them, Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Do not ye serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? Now if ye be ready, that at what time you hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the image which I have made, well, but if ye worship not, ye shall be cast the same hour into the midst of a burning fiery furnace.
Right. So we know that eventually they were cast into the burning furnace, right? For not listening to the ordinance. And listen, I don't think that if you don't take a vaccine, right, or a chip, that someone is going to toss you into a furnace, right? I think that the way they're initially pushing these things is that, listen, if you don't get it, you can't eat, you can't work. Okay, you can't work, you can't eat, your children can't go to school. Okay, so that may be the initial thing. So that fire initially may simply just be fire of affliction. Okay, fire of adversity. Okay, but there's going to come a time in which decisions have to be made, which will mean if you don't make this decision, okay, if you don't do this, then it may mean threatening your very life. Okay, where there will be some level of death on the other side if you decide to say, well, listen, I'm not following that ordinance. Okay, and the question is, what decision will we make in those scenarios? Okay, now these brethren chose to be tossed into the furnace. And we know what happened with this story. In this story, we know that it says that, is this the one where it says that he only cast 3 in the furnace, but he saw 4 in the furnace, one like the Son of Man, right? So a spirit protected them while in the furnace, okay? And that was the spirit that would eventually enter into the earth as Christ, okay? What's that part you were reading about where it says that the one who would die and become a sacrifice, something to that effect? Was that in Daniel 3, or was that another story?
You mean Abraham's situation?
No, that's another situation where they mentioned where the 3 holy, one of those children mentioned that he who was something to the effect of he who would come and die for the sins or something like that have protected us or something to that effect. Was that in this story or was that another story?
That was another. That was in the 7 sons.
The 7 sons. The 7 sons. Okay. So we're going to get that next. So we all know what happens with the situation. However, again, the point we're making is that we can see examples of people who were law-abiding citizens. These are law-abiding citizens we're reading in that story. Okay. They didn't break the laws of Babylon. However, a decision came about, okay, where in all societies, it comes to a point where they want you to prove straight out, who do you serve? Do you serve God or do you serve us? Do you serve God or do you serve Satan? They want you to make it clear. Okay? And those decisions are coming about in this time period. Who do you serve? Okay? Read on. Where we at now? Let's get, second. Okay, let's get that, 2 Maccabees. Now, there's other stories you can read, but for the sake of time, I'm going to forego. Okay, you can read also the book of Esther, okay, as an example of people who are law-abiding citizens. However, they chose not to bow down to Haman, and because of it, suffered. Okay, or at least Haman tried to cause these people to go through suffering and death and actually killing these people in mass numbers, speaking about the Israelites, because Mordecai chose not to bow to him. Okay, so showing you that, listen, we, as our forefathers, are law-abiding citizens, but there comes a point where enough is enough. Okay, and we have to make a decision. All right, and we will always make the decision that will put us in a good place with the Most High. Okay, let me just say that. The book of 2 Maccabees 7:1.
2 Maccabees chapter 7, verse 1. It came to pass also that 7 brethren with their mother were taken and compelled by the king against the law to taste swine's flesh.
Right. Now let's hold that real quick and let's go back to 1 Maccabees 1 to show you the society that we were under. And predominantly those who were of our nation, right, who got in bed or got in line with the society to sell their people out, which led to us being tortured in this fashion under the Greeks. Let's go down to verse number 12. First Maccabees chapter 11. Let's go to chapter 11. Okay, and this goes into what we were bringing out last week. Okay, how you have sellouts amongst the nation who will sell the people out, and that the agendas of the government really don't go over too well until there's someone who comes along and says, "Let me be the sellout." Okay, they have a harder time, okay, penetrating and dealing with us and trying to push certain agendas when we all decide to say, "Listen, enough is enough. We're not going for it." But when you get that person who comes and they open the door and they say, "Well, listen, we're willing to do this. We're willing to open our church for you to come in, okay, and do your testing, right, for the coronavirus." And what happens? Eventually, another pastor sees it and he follows suit. Okay, another one sees it and say, "Well, hey, man, I can make a little, okay, I can make a little money on the side off of this thing. Okay, I'm back on my mortgage for the building. Okay, things are tying up or tightening up. Let's open up our church so that we can have an opportunity, to have our Sunday worship again, so on and so forth. And we'll sell the people up the river, okay, in the process." All right, but let's get that in First Maccabees 1 and 11. Yep. Okay. The wicked men in those days.
Okay. First Maccabees 1 and 11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, "Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow."
Right. So these are wicked men from amongst the nation of Israel who are saying, "Let us go and make a covenant with the nations, with the heathen. For since we have separated from them, we have had much" what?
Much sorrow.
Much sorrow. So since we have separated from the nations, man, we've been going through so much. We're losing money. We're losing finances. We're back on our mortgages. Okay. We're suffering since we have separated from our covenant with these nations. So let's make an opportunity. Let's bring something forward in which now we can open the door for the nations to come in. Okay. And again, offer our people up as a sacrifice in the process. Okay, and this is what we're seeing with pastors now opening their doors for testing the people. And we're finding out, it was brought out in the news segment from the Washington Post, that the companies that were sending out, or I believe it was one particular company that was sending out coronavirus testing kits, actually tainted the testing kits with coronavirus. Okay, so what do you think happens when these people are now tested? Okay, 9 times out of 10, you got coronavirus, right? So this is the foolishness that our people are being subject unto, right? Because of poor leadership, wicked men who are looking out for themselves, right? Or themselves don't really have no knowledge of what's really going on, okay? And now out of fear or whatever the case may be, are using this as an opportunity, okay? Read on. Verse 12.
So this device pleased them well.
So this device pleased them well. So this is the society that we were under, where our people were willing, where leaders were willing to sell out the people for their own benefit. Okay, so let's go back to 2 Maccabees 7. Okay.
Still going to do some good stuff there.
Oh, you want to get some? Okay, let's get some of that.
He says, 13 says, "Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathen."
You see that? So some of the people were so wicked and so forward herein, meaning within themselves, that they did what?
Wherein they, who gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathen.
Who gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathen. Give us license to do after the ways of Greece. Let us operate in your gymnasiums. Mm-hmm. Let us go about in the nude and deal with the wrestling and the sports and the entertainment. so on and so forth. Okay? Give us license so that we can be a part of your society. Okay? Now, let me make it clear. If you got to get a driver's license to drive, we're not telling you don't get a driver's license. I have to make that clear. Okay? We're talking about a license to sin against the Most High. We're not saying that, you need your ID. You want to go to the store. Okay, you want to purchase a bottle of wine. They ask you for an ID. Submit your ID. Okay, or make sure you have your ID and things of that nature for identification. And we have to make these things clear because some people hear this and they go to the extreme. Okay, license. I heard the word license, and in this case, license just simply means gave them the ability. You understand? Granted them the ability to do so. It don't necessarily mean they said, okay, the Greeks, okay, here you go, Judah. Here's a license to operate in the gymnasium. Here's your membership. Okay, that's not necessarily the case. License simply means granting them the ability to do those things. Okay. So I don't want you to hear that and think, well, does that mean that a driver's license is sin, or a identification license is sin, or passport is sin? Okay, but read on. Exactly. Someone said the word I was looking for, privilege. Okay, they gave them the permission or the privilege to do something.
They have the permits.
The permits, exactly, exactly.
Right. It says, whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem, according to the customs of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief.
Right. So this is the decision that many of our people made in this situation. They said that, listen, since we've separated ourselves from the heathen, we've had much sorrow. Just like right now, you have many people going through much sorrow since they've somewhat had to separate from their normal course of life amongst the nations. Things are going on with the mortgage, can't pay bills, food, that's becoming an issue now. Okay, starvation. Other issues are coming about because of this thing. And now people are considering and saying within themselves, I'll do anything to get back to work. Okay, I'll do anything. Who do I have to sell out? Who do I have to tell on? Okay, what do I have to take? All right, I'm ready to go back to work. Okay. Now, in this case, the damning thing about this is the fact that this is coming from a top level, or more so of an influential situation. It's one thing if you got an individual willing to sell people out, but if you have someone who is influential in the community in making these decisions, which will affect thousands of their people, because there may be other pastors or maybe other people who may look up to certain individuals and say, well, he's doing it. Well, he's a wise man. He's smart. Okay. He's rich. Okay. There must be something to it. Okay. We're going to do it as well. Okay. So that's the damning thing about it. And again, our people become, we become the sacrifice within the process. Okay. But I know we wanted to get chapter 7, but for the sake of time, we're going to forego chapter 7. When you get the opportunity, please read this chapter, 2 Maccabees 7, to show you that even in the face of death, when it came a time in which we were being told to do something which is against our God, whatever that may be, okay? I'm not saying just the vaccine. I'm just giving that as an example because that's at the forefront of people's minds. But there's going to be many things that come down the line as far as decisions that we're going to have to make, which, based on that decision, will determine where we stand with the Most High. Okay? So we have to be very mindful. And in those situations, as much as possible, try to use wisdom, as we saw with Daniel, right? In Daniel, the 1st chapter. Using wisdom, looking for an alternative. If there is no alternative, then listen, I have to stand with the Most High. Okay? If that means that me standing with the Most High, there's a chance that, there's death on the other side of this, then so be it. But I have to stand with the Most High. Okay? Let's finish off with a few scriptures. Okay? Let's go to the book of Acts, the 5th chapter, and the 25th verse. Okay, there's a lot more scriptures we wanted to get, but for the sake of time, we're gonna do these last two scriptures.
Okay.
All right.
25. Acts chapter 5, verse 25. Then came one and told them, saying, Behold, the men whom ye put in prison are standing in the temple and teaching the people. Then went the captain with the officers and brought them without violence, for they feared the people, lest they should have been stoned.
Right. Now, this is speaking about the apostles. Okay. Peter at the head. Now, the apostles, they were law-abiding citizens. Okay. They followed, they weren't, they weren't going around, committing murders and going around hurting and harming people within the Roman society. Now, they didn't agree with the oppression of Rome, but nonetheless, they were law-abiding citizens. Okay. And also, they abode by the law of their local government, which was the Sanhedrin. Okay. They abode by those laws. Okay. So they were law-abiding citizens all about. But however, decisions came about, scenarios came about in which they had to make a decision. Okay. Yes, I follow the law, but you put me in a situation in which I have to choose God, okay, over what you're saying. Okay. And in the case of the apostles, they always chose the Most High. Even unto the death, they chose the Most High. Okay, we see that with Stephen. Stephen was brought before the council of the Sanhedrin. He was brought right into the court of the nation of Israel, okay, and protested against them, right, through the power of the Holy Spirit. And eventually it led to his death. Okay, so again, there's scenarios where our people were put in where, listen, we're not going to outright just be these rambunctious people in society. However, when you put us in a box, and you tell us it's either this or that, okay, we're going to choose that, which is the Most High. Okay, let's finish that.
Okay, 27. And when they had brought them, they set them before the council, and the high priest asked them, that was for you,
the one,
saying, Did not we straightly command you that ye should not teach in his name? And behold, ye have filled Jerusalem with your doctrine.
Right, so they were telling the apostles not to teach in Christ's name. Didn't we tell you, didn't we order you, didn't we bring it forth and let you know by law that you're not to teach by that name, meaning by the name of Christ? Go ahead.
And intend to bring this man's blood upon us.
Mm-hmm.
Then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, We ought to obey the Most High rather than men.
What's that?
We ought to obey the Most High rather than men.
So Peter and the apostles stated, we ought to obey God rather than men. Okay, we understand what you're saying for the sanctity of your, law and your government and your control over the society. But we have an unction and a command from God to teach in the name of Christ. Okay, this man just died for our sins. He just shed his blood for our sins. Therefore, we see what you're saying. Okay, but we got to do what the Most High tell us to do. Okay. So these are the decisions that the apostles made.
All right.
Okay. Read on.
The God of your fathers raised up Yeshua, whom he slew and hanged on a tree.
Mm-hmm.
Him hath the Most High exalted with his right hand to be a prince and a savior, for to give repentance to Israel and forgiveness of sins. And we are hid witnesses of these things. And so is also the Holy Ghost whom the Most High hath given to them that obey him. When they heard that, they were cut to the heart and took counsel to slay them. Then stood there up one in the council, a Pharisee named Gamaliel, a doctor of the law.
Right. So they were looking to stone and kill the apostles, okay, for teaching in the name of Christ. Okay. Now we can see if they were brought before the judges because the apostles decided to sell, drugs in Israel, or they chose to kill someone in Israel, or they chose to take someone's wife in Israel. We can see them standing in judgment for that. Same way today, if you do these things in today's society, we can see you being judged for that and brought before court in that. You have no defense in those situations. Okay. However, for teaching the word of God, for teaching in the name of Christ, and now being presented with a situation, either you stop teaching in the name of Christ or you will be killed. what do? Okay. Well, the apostles made it clear that they will obey God rather than men. Okay. Now, let me make this again. We got to always make it clear. Okay. We got to always make it clear. Okay. We understand where things are going right now with this society. Okay. The scripture says, you persecuted in one place, you flee unto the next, understanding and using wisdom. Okay. So instead of going out and trying to put, extra target on your back, or putting a light where light don't need to be shown. Okay. Some people still feel it's the need to go out there. We got to show that we out here in the midst of Corona and we're prophesying, we're bringing a word. That's fine. That's for you. Okay. But for us, we're looking at the next phase of this thing. Okay. In preparation for the sheep. Okay. And when you brothers and sisters, when you see that, you have to realize that, okay, it's easy for a few guys to decide to go and say, we're going to go out in the streets and do this and that, so on and so forth. Exactly. It's easy for them to do that because they don't necessarily have flocks to deal with. Okay. We have a flock that has been entrusted to us. So we have to make sure that we deal with that flock and operate with that flock accordingly. So we have to look at the next phase of this thing and say, well, look, this is where they're going. Okay, this is what we need to do. Okay, this is the next phase of this thing. Okay, we're not going to be out there and making it known amongst, so on and so forth, out on the streets. Okay, we're gonna function. We're gonna move with wisdom. Okay, and I have to make this clear because someone will watch this video, okay, and will say, well, of course, they're saying stay-at-home orders and things, and we know things are being lifted. Okay. But someone is going to look at this and say, well, we know that they said, such and such and so, and you guys are telling us to, not go on the streets, but I'm going to obey God over man. I'm going to go on the streets. Okay. And listen, you make those decisions. We have nothing to do with that. We can't help you in that situation. Okay. Again, with vision, with understanding, we have to make decisions on the next phase of this thing. Okay. And that's all I'm going to say on that. But I have to always make these things clear because people, they look at our videos, they look at things we say, and they take it out of context. Okay. And they use it for their own turn. Well, you said obey God rather than men. You a man. So I'm going to listen to God and not you. Okay. Okay. When when you're in the prison cell, listen to God and not me. When you're in your hospital bed, listen to God, not me. Okay. Just making that clear. But the point I'm making with this is the fact that these men, when it came time for them to actually stand, okay, and deal with things accordingly, when it came to these decisions, these scenarios, right, they stood with the Most High. Okay, so we have to ask ourselves, when these situations come about where we must stand for the Most High, what will we do? We must stand for the Most High. Okay, one more scripture, Joshua chapter 24. That was it on that, right?
Yes, sir. All right.
All right, that's Joshua 24. Let's go down to verse, let me see here. Let's go to verse 23.
All right, Joshua chapter 24, verse 23. Now, therefore, put away, said he, the strange gods which are among you, and incline your heart unto the Most High of Israel. And the people said unto Joshua, the Most High, wait a minute, I'll read it with it. Mm-hmm. The Lord our God will we serve, and his voice will we obey.
So it says, the Lord our God will we serve, and his voice will we obey. Now, again, are we telling people to go out and disrupt society just because they decide that they feel like they have the unction to prove that they're not following the course of society? Absolutely not. That's foolishness. And we showed you out the Bible that the men of God never did that. The men of God never went about society being rambunctious, disorderly citizens of society. Okay, the thing that caused them to be looked upon as disorderly is the fact that they were ministers of God and they taught the word of God and they went strong for the Most High. And through that, they became they became a threat. Okay. But outside of that, we would never tell people from the pulpit to go out and operate disorderly, okay, amongst society. That's foolishness. Okay. But when it comes down to these decisions that have to be made, and these are decisions that may be between you and the person you're speaking to. Some of these decisions are not going to be before the world stage. It'll be a decision between you and the person you're speaking to. And they're telling you, you either do this or you do that. Okay. And you have to make a decision. Okay. Now, of course, if there's a situation that you're dealing with that may be of that magnitude and it needs further counsel, then we suggest you seek further counsel. Don't look at this video and feel like because I work at a hospital, I have to go back and prove that I serve the Most High. So I'm going to cause some level of disruption at the hospital or at the prison, or I'm going to go and, I'm going to put myself in a situation in which they have to make a choice for me. Because I'm doing this and acting like this, they have to get rid of me, whatever the case may be. We're not saying that. We're saying that when these things come across your table, okay, you have to use wisdom first and foremost, seek counsel, and above all, stand with the Most High. Okay? Exactly. Someone said, if you got a job right now, don't try to, if you got a job right now, then you're in good shape for a little bit, okay, for a little bit of time. Okay, don't go and try to make that, don't try to turn tables and you're going around and, you grab the head doctor and you got the needle to his neck and you're squirting stuff out the needle and saying, listen, I'm not taking no vaccine. Okay. There's no need for a hostage. We're not looking for no hostile situations right now. Okay. But again, the only reason why we're using these examples because these are the things that people are talking about and thinking about. Okay. But we're talking about even beyond this. Okay. When it comes to decision making. All right. But finish that out. Okay. We will serve me and my house. We'll serve.
Okay. So Joshua made a covenant with the people that day and set a statute and ordinance in Shechem. Let's see. Now let me go back. And the people said unto Joshua, the Most High power will we serve, and his voice will we obey.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this was another part there. Come on, as for me
and my house. Where's that at? Verse 15. I'm sorry. Okay, verse 15. Yeah. Joshua 24 and 15.
24 and 15.
Okay, same thing for police. If you work on the police force, if you work on any of these forces, okay, use wisdom. Okay, use wisdom. Mm-hmm. Okay, don't go in the police force, cause a hostile situation. You got your superior locked up. Okay, going through all types of madness because you feel like you have to make a point that you serve the Most High. Okay, and that you're not going to follow man over the Most High. Okay, use wisdom. If one day your guy, they have a thing like or what's that YouTube video at one of these companies? They had a chip party. Okay, where people were coming in and they were, everyone was coming in to work and being chipped, and they made a party out of it. Complete Satanists, right? Now, if a chip party is taking place at the hospital or at the police station, okay, you have a choice to make. Okay, or a vaccine party is taking place at the hospital or the police station, you have a choice to make. Okay, first, try to see, okay, can I get around this? And if I can't get around it, okay, I have to find another place of work. Okay, I have to find another occupation. Okay, simple as that. All right, let's get that verse 15 and we'll close out on that.
Joshua 24, verse 15. And if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day who you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Most High.
Right. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Most High. Okay. And that's the time we're in, where houses, families, and individuals have to make decisions as to who it is we serve. And if we're claiming that we serve the Most High, we have to now make decisions based on who we serve. Okay. So with that, we're going to say blessings and shalom. We're sorry for the technical difficulties. I think even up until the end, some people were saying that it was choppy. Okay. But nonetheless, we thank you all for your patience throughout this. This is an announcement I want to make specifically for Atlanta, as well as some of the other areas that may have opened up. Okay. And again, this is just using, okay? This is not a law or commandment. This is wisdom, okay? Guidance in this time, okay? So, which means if someone is going to go outside of this, then you have to do that at your own risk. But we're looking at things and we're examining things. We're having elders in leadership meetings, and we're looking at where things are in society. And we're trying to make the wisest decisions and choices that we can at this time amongst leadership to make sure that our flocks are not put in these awkward situations, okay, where we can't help them outside of prayer. Okay, you go into a hospital now, then no one can go into that hospital with you, not even your family. Okay, so right now we're trying to prevent people being in these situations in which we can't get to them and help them the way we desire to. Okay. So this is coming directly from Elder Ricard. He would like to remind the members in Atlanta not to be out in all of the salons in different areas that are open up, okay? Because they could try and target our people with something and continue, okay? So keep in mind that even though things are opening up, we still have to be mindful. We still have to be careful. We still have to be vigilant and watchful, okay? And make sure the same way we put it out there, okay, during this time, this whole thing when there was a lockdown, not to be just dealing with frivolous travel. Know your surroundings, know what you're dealing with, okay? Same thing still applies. Use wisdom, okay? So again, for those who are in Atlanta and other areas where things are kind of opening up, please use wisdom, okay? Also continue to take your vitamin C, vitamin D3, colloidal silver, magnesium, selenium, blackberries, and other supplements, and blackberry supplements, okay? Now, of course, if you're on medication, and I'm going to give that list of things again, if you're on medication that may conflict with those things, then you want to speak to your general practitioner, okay? But if you can, again, your vitamin C, your vitamin D3, your colloidal silver, your magnesium, your selenium, and your blackberry supplements. Now, I know somebody out there is going to say, no. Just wash your hands, put on your mask, stay 6 feet away. Okay? And that's the solution.
Hey, what's happening, Gabby?
Hey, Shalom.
All right. See that blinking there?
Yes, sir.
You good?
Yes, sir. We good. We're about to close out.
All right. You got that.
Hey, how you doing?
Shalom, brothers. This is Shalom. I'm good?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. So, yes. So somebody's out there going to tell you, the only solution is to do those things until, right, the vaccine comes.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate solution. I know some people are waiting for Bill Gates to float off of a mountain with sun shining off of it, and he's coming with a torch in his hand, and that torch, all of a sudden turns into a vaccine, and it happens, and the doctor's sitting there with the vaccine in their arm. Some people are waiting for these things, man. Some people are waiting for Bill Gates and these physicians of no value to come as the solution. Okay, and we're showing you that the Most High is the solution. The scriptures are the solution. Okay. But don't forget, knowledge and wisdom shall be the stability of your times. All right. So with that, for those who are in the academy tomorrow, we're going to be going through Christianity, focusing mainly on the rapture deception and the immaculate conception. So with that, I want to say bless you all. Shalom. Enjoy the rest of your Sabbath. And we'll be back tomorrow for those who are in the academy with the academy. With that, I say bless you all and shalom. Also, if you'd like to send tithes, offerings, and donations, you can go to our website. We have a section on the website specifically for donations. You can check it out, and you can offer your donations in your tithes and offerings, so on and so forth. Okay? With that, bless you all and shalom.